Welcome to Knicksfandom. This is an independent New York Knicks fan-based podcast, which was created by fans for fans. The show is hosted by LA Blackwell, Danny, and Flau. They'll discuss the issues surrounding the Knicks, the NBA, and various other sports-related topics. Join us. It's going to be a heck of a ride.
So as long as I got my friends, I'm better. Welcome, everyone. It's episode 12 of our podcast known as Knicksfandom. It's great to be back, and I'm your host, LA Blackwell. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I'm joined by my co-host, Danny D. How are things, D?
LA, what's going on? Just another day is the slogan that we say, brother.
Very true. I'm doing good, man. How about you, Flo? How's everything with you and my fellow co-hosts?
LA, I'm great, man. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. We back. Here we are. It's episode 12, as I stated earlier. And we're going to get right into our weekly Knicks Roundup. And let me just say, the following 4 games since our past podcast basically was the Pacers game on Monday, which the Knicks won 109-103. Wednesday, they had a game against the Mavericks, which they lost 103-95. On Friday, they had a home game against the Hornets, which they won 110-107. And then today, they had an away game against the Hawks, which they lost in the four-time overtime game, 139-142. So basically, since our last podcast, the Knicks have went 2 up and 2 down for basically a record of 21-28, a 13-11 home record, and an 8-17 on the road. Basically, they would be 11th place in the playoffs if it started at this moment. So what are your thoughts right now regarding these last 4 games since our previous podcast? Starting off with you, Flo.
I'll be honest with you, LA. I think couple words to describe the Knicks. They're fighting. They're competing.
Very true. This is a lot better than they were doing earlier. Go a little more detail with that overall.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much, man. They are scratching and crawling. It was a big win they had against Indiana, going on the road, TNT game. Even though Charles Barkley was making fun of them, saying that the Knicks should be banned playing on TNT since they're bad. But listen, man, they look good against Indiana. The Dallas game, they turned the ball over. That was the probably why they lost the Dallas Mavericks game in Dallas. Too many turnovers, especially Carmelo had 7 turnovers in that Dallas Mavericks game. The Charlotte game, that was all about Courtney Lee, pretty much all about Courtney Lee. And Sunday, which is today, against Atlanta. They competed. They really competed. Both teams didn't want to lose the game, but also they didn't want to win the game also. So they kept fighting and fighting. At the end of the day, I think that the key players for the Knicks fouled out, and that's what really hurt them. Which was Melo fouled out, Porzingis fouled out, Noah fouled out. But other than that, they're fighting. They're really fighting, man. And look like they're going to try their best to continue to compete.
Yep, definitely seems that way. Thank you, Flo. How about you, Danny D? What you think about the Knicks right now since our last podcast in these 4 games?
Well, the 4 games went okay. It could have been a lot better. They really should have went 4-0 because they're really not that behind in 8th place. But like we said, guys, again, they have to play defense, guys. They're giving up 100 points in the last 9 games. Everybody they played in the last 9 games is scoring over 100 on these guys. So we got to try to get together and try to make this last push to make this last playoff spot. They're going through adversity. Carmelo's still doing his thing, even though the whole, the nonsense going on, and he's still balling out there, and these boys are still doing it. But they got to try to defend and try to limit teams to stop breaking the 100 marks on these guys so we can start getting some W's and get these spots and get a higher seed and get out this 8th spot.
Very true. Thank you, Danny D, for that assessment. Gotta agree with you right there, Flo and Danny D. They're fighting. This is what we wanted them to do. Also, like you stated previous with the trade rumors that's going on with Melo, you could definitely see it in the locker room in his face. It's definitely a little distracting to him, even though he's a vet. But, this is the NBA. This is why you're a professional and why you get paid. You have to still play regardless. They still have the injury that's going on with Rose, so that's been affecting them as well. And the things I'm liking, I'm seeing some different lineups, which I really like the game previous than this one. And I'd like to see more of that from Hornacek. Let's see what he's going to do as the games go by. But they really got to take a chance and really start making a move. They're going to do this playoffs right now. They're in 11th place. Right now, you can't afford to fall back too much further. The All-Star game is coming up very soon. and this is a break when you really got to try to get yourself together. But I don't think they're really going to get to that point till the trade deadline goes, and we see what happens with Melo. From right now, that's the way I see it at this moment. Any particular games that stand out that anyone y'all want to go into? Starting with you, Danny D. Any particular game stands out of the four that you'd like to address?
We can talk about today's game. I think we really got bamboozled and hoodwinked out of this one today. It was a close game with a quadruple overtime. And I usually don't blame the refs, but some of the calls out there were atrocious. Atrocious. And I really think we got robbed today on this win that we should have won today because of the refs. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I hear you. Don't really get that too many calls, especially when they driving. I notice a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm saying it was tied. It was tied up. Carmelo to tie the game at 104. That should have been an and one. If he didn't get fouled, they would have made him go to the line. Dennis Schroeder's over here bouncing the ball into the fans. There's no technical foul.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Paul Millsap that's a technical foul. The ball went into the stands. How's that not a technical foul?
I don't know. They changed it on the replay. They looked at it. I heard World Clyde Frazier speaking about it. I thought it was, but it's hard to do these things when you're not winning. A lot of these calls don't seem to go your way as well. That's the thing.
I see.
How about you, Flo, with today's game? You want to speak about that or just touch upon that a little earlier in the show?
Yeah, pretty much, LA. I gotta agree with Danny 110%. Not only was Melo fouled, he was fouled when his headband came off his head. That's how you know he was fouled. And you can tell with this melodrama going on that's created by Phil Jackson, our president of basketball operations, you can tell this is getting to him. And you can see a lot of the fans on the road is really trying to intimidate Melo, but he's keeping his cool and he's talking back to the fans. He's knocking down shots. He got hot, especially in these overtimes. He got real hot, talking a lot to the fans. You see every time he's scoring, he's screaming and one, even though the refs are not giving him the call. It's really a shame that Carmelo Anthony is probably one of the top 10 players in the NBA today, and he's still not getting the foul calls. Definitely really is a shame. It really is. If I'm Jeff Hornacek and I'm Carmelo Anthony, what I should be doing is right after this game, I should be complaining about the lack of good officiating in Knicks games. Pay the fine, and hopefully the Knicks get the calls in their next game against the Wizards Tuesday night. Period. Do it like the way Pat Riley always done. When Pat Riley used to coach the Knicks, games games went against their way. He complained about the lack of officiating. At the end of the day, the Knicks were going to win the next game. He paid the fine, whatever it was, whether it's 10 grand, 50 grand. Pretty sure right now it's 50 grand right now, but 10 grand back then in the 90s, you already knew the Knicks were going to get all the calls and were going to find a way to win the next game. That's what Coach Hornacek and Melo should be doing right after this game.
Can't disagree with you, Flo. Can't disagree with you on that. You got to take one for the team right now because they're battling for you. You basically, as a coach, you got to battle for them. But, and ever since that Charlotte game, I feel like Lee's been playing a lot better, He looks like he's really into the game, really being aggressive. He hit a big three today to push it to that other overtime. They just ran out of bodies after a while. A lot of people kept fouling out after Porzingis and everything of that nature. But, it's like Danny said, they're fighting. Not much more you can do with that. You just got to try to really win some games. You can't afford to keep doing 2-2. You got to put a string of games together. That's the main thing. And that leads us right into our next segment, Trade Talk. Basically, there's a lot of trades going on in the NBA right now, in particular regarding Melo from the New York Knicks. So that's very relevant considering our show is Knicksfandom. And I'd like to discuss, right now, the potential trade proposal that have been talked about in the media, starting with Kevin Love, and it was a recent trade that was rejected by the Cavs, as reported by ESPN's Mark Stein and Chris Hines. What you think about this potential trade flow that had Kevin Love being traded for Carmelo Anthony?
LA, pretty much. I have 5 reasons why I don't like this trade. Okay. Number 1, Kevin Love has 3.5 years left on his contract. Number 2, Kevin Love is 6'10", but he's not even a shot blocker. He averages less than 1 block per game in his entire NBA career. Number 3, he can't even carry an NBA team on his back into the playoffs. Since he began his NBA career in 2008 as the 5th overall pick in the 2008 NBA draft, Kevin Love has finished with a losing record in his Minnesota career. He won 24 games in 2008, 15 games in 2009, 17 games in 2010, 26 games in 2011, 31 games in 2012, and 40 games in 2013. When Kevin Love was finally traded for Andrew Wiggins from Minnesota to Cleveland, that's when Kevin Love finally started winning. Number 4, pretty much by Cleveland making this trade, they will be destroying their team chemistry because Kevin Love pretty much is the third option on that team. And the 5th and most important reason, by not making it, if you make this trade for the Knicks, if you think about it, Kevin Love pretty much plays the same position as Kristaps Porzingis. So pretty much this has been it will be a bad trade for both parties.
Okay, Flo. Very thorough. Appreciate it. I'll give my assessment after Danny D. How about you, Danny D? What do you think about this potential trade, Love for Melo?
I don't like it at all. I'm with Flo on this one. Because like Flo said, you got Kevin Love. You're taking somebody who's the third option, and you're bringing him to the system, and you want him to be basically the number 1 option or the number 2 option. And he's not used to that. He used to playing with Kyrie and LeBron and taking a coat seat and shooting threes all day. And we don't need that in New York. We need somebody who's going to be a playmaker and going to be a go-to guy. Melo can actually do that. But then it's half and half, because now if you bring him to the Cavs, which is for Melo, we're saying that what do the Cavs really need, though? The Cavs have scorers already. They got Kyrie. They got LeBron, who can score. Melo, he's not really a playmaker. And also, they need a rim protector. And Melo doesn't rebound, too. You know? So it's like it's a half-half. It's a bad trade on both sides. And I like Melo. And Kevin Love, I don't think he's ready for the limelight and take criticism like Melo has been taken in New York for no reason at all.
Okay.
Melo.
Go ahead.
He can rock out. No. That's what I'm just saying. I'll rock out with Melo. I'm not with that Kevin Love trade. I'm glad it didn't go through.
Okay. Thank you very much, Danny D. Very thorough as well. I'm half and half with y'all. I thought about the trade more. At first, I was like, I was more on your, thinking with that, like, it really is not good for either one. But then I thought more about last year with Love in the playoffs. He's actually benched. I can't really see Melo being benched like the way Kevin Love was. He looks really terrible last year in the finals. And to me, I think you got to take a chance if I would do it. If I was Cleveland, I would definitely try and do that. I think you have Melo, who's good friends with LeBron. It's something to be said to be playing with your friends on there, as LeBron seems to like to have that type of teammates where he had with Bosh as well with Wade. I think he has more confidence and, more belief in Melo versus Kevin Love. I also think with that team, Melo would be very hungry to go for that championship. As you're seeing right now, he's playing one of his best basketball right now. And looking at some of the teams he would match up with, I think Melo kind of match up better with some of the teams that's where he was facing the playoff with a Durant and those players of that nature. I think Melo's much more physical than Love is in a clutch with things of that. I just think he'd be a better fit overall. I would take the chance if I was Cleveland, but I wouldn't do it if I was the Knicks. Like you stated, I don't think he's made for New York as Love is. He might be like Randy Johnson a little bit, maybe not as volatile, but he just doesn't look like he has the mental fortitude to be able to handle the New York press. I don't see that at all. But if I was Cleveland, I might rethink that and take a chance on Melo, because you're playing for now. That team is just playing to win. That's all LeBron cares about at this point. He don't care about 4 or 5 years. If that was the case, he'd have kept Wiggins. So he's going now. And I think in clutch with Kyrie, Love, and Melo, it'd be very hard to stop that team as well as with Korver out there. And you could always go small ball with Thompson. But basically, that's the type of team you're going to be playing in the playoffs anyway. You're not going to be using all those other players. It's going to be a very small lineup, very small rotation. So that's my idea regarding that. Any other assessments y'all have regarding that trade?
The only thing assessment that I think with that, if they were to go through, they would have to add one more piece to beat, because I see what LeBron is doing if it's something like that, because he wants to match up with other teams. They would have to get Melo in another piece. You understand what I'm saying? Because just because you go with the 4, it'd be like he just swapped players. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really gain anything. He gained another score, but he needs somebody like another it factor just to like to orchestrate everything. So he needs one more with Melo.
I agree, but I think with Melo, I mean, just looking at that lineup, because you had Thompson, he would start as a center at that point in the playoff. You have, LeBron or Melo playing the power, depending on the matchup, and then other one play the small. Then you have Corvette the 2, or even JR if he comes back, and Kyrie. Yeah. That team is a very clutch team right there. I mean, I don't know who you're going to leave open playing that type of team, But I think you still need another big person, another big guy to play the center, which I like to get in that trade, and also maybe like another playmaker like you stated. But it's an interesting trade to me. I think it definitely favors the Cavs more than the Knicks, though. But that's it regarding that potential trade. Another trade regarding this trade is one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. And it was a segment that came on with Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal regarding LeBron James, and basically kind of pouting after he didn't get the trade to go through. There's been a lot of back and forth with the ownership, and it's kind of putting out the signal that they're not spending as much money as they should. And I was just trying to get your assessment. All of us saw that segment. So I just want to know, what did you think about that segment overall, Flo? Did you agree with Shaquille? Did you agree with Barkley, or neither? Just speak about that and LeBron's legacy regarding this type of trade.
Pretty much his comments were inappropriate. At the end of the day, if he has any issue with the roster, he should go upstairs and look for Mr. Gilbert. Dan Gilbert, which is actually the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, have a sit-down meeting with him and just explain to him what he doesn't like about this roster. He doesn't need to air his dirty laundry into the media. In regards to the lack of talent LeBron feels that he has, I think Cleveland have enough pieces to defend their title. I'm just trying to understand with LeBron. Does he want all the best players in the world on his team, or what? That's what I want to know.
That's what it seems like to me. How you think about it, Danny D? What you thought about that overall segment?
The thing is, I see what LeBron is doing. Like you guys saying, we talked about this earlier in the podcast at other episodes. What LeBron right now, what is he doing? LeBron doesn't care about no regular season. He don't care about the players. He's thinking about the NBA Finals. And he's worried about chips and rings. That's it. He wakes up in the morning time. I don't care what seed we are. Oh, we're going to get in. We can be the second seed in the East. I want rings. All right. So what is he doing? He's minding his business. He wakes up. He said Kevin Durant went where? To Golden State. Ain't this about a B? Ain't this about a B? I just won the championship. That's what he was doing. He was at home chilling on his vacation on a yacht on the banana boat. Him, CP3. Everybody was just chilling, having a good time. He's chilling with Savannah, and he found out that Kevin Durant went to Golden State. Now he's thinking. He's like, damn, I done started this. They got Steph.
Exactly.
They got Clay. They got Draymond, and they got Kevin. Okay, that's 4 people. Let me count. I know math. It's me,
Kyrie,
Kevin Love.
Exactly.
That's 3. He's like, yo, we don't got enough pieces. But then, like I was discussing before, Flo, I was telling LA, I was saying that LeBron, in a way, he started this by overpaying players that shouldn't have got a lot of money. You overpaid Tristan Thompson. You overpaid J.R. Smith. If you didn't overpay these players, you could have had enough cap room to get somebody else. That's on you, LeBron. You want to be the GM and you want to be player coach. You can't be all 3. If you had a problem with that, you go up and start the dance. You don't air out dirty laundry. You keep that inside because it's an inside problem.
Gotta agree with you. But, I'm going to go a little more detail with that. LeBron started a lot of this, He wanted to do his NWO stuff. He put his big teams together. He got to put the big 3. And you put this out there. And I caught a lot of heat with this before, talking about this stuff. And that's why I was a big fan of not liking this big 3 stuff and big 4. It's like, when does it end? So now you started this with, with Wade and Bosh. And that the same thing's happening to you. Because everybody want to worry about the chip. Everybody want to win. Okay, that's cool. But you're the best player in the game. You are King James, man. That's what they keep telling me. He's the king. He's the GOAT. He's the next person to take on Mike and take the throne, Mount Rushmore, blah, blah, blah. And I'm hearing you begging for players, basically. They're saying, well, we got to get these pieces. I hope they're not sitting on their laurel. You the best player in the game. You shouldn't need but so many pieces. I never heard Mike talking about whatever pieces he wanted. He needed this. He needed that. You play with what you have, and that's it. You got enough pieces. You the defending champs. Nobody's going to feel sorry for Goliath. This is what you wanted. You playing against Warriors. That's what basically everybody thinks is going to be. And if you beat them, you will be known as a GOAT to a lot of people. And that's what you're not realizing. You're beating 2 MVPs on the team right there with Curry and Durant. And now you want to add another piece. It's like when you add so many pieces, what have you won after a while? Which is why I really discussed about what Durant did. I'm not going to give him no credit for this championship if they actually win it. It's no big deal to me. You went to the team that broke the record for the most wins ever. Ever. The team that you was up 3-1 and then you leave and join this team. You get nothing for that. It's like with Miami. Okay, LeBron won 2. The one chip he got in Cleveland is worth that just as much to me. He gets way more props for winning in Cleveland than he ever would get to Miami to me. That's just my opinion with that. So you wanted this, LeBron. You started it. Deal with it. Stop crying about it. Get your pieces together and show us that you're the King James.
LeBron James.
LA, let me add one more thing.
Sure, Flo.
Keep in mind with the Cavaliers, they already lost $40 million in their championship season last year. $40 million. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a flawed number, though. The franchise went up 40%, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because they won championship.
Yeah. So the franchise itself went up 40%. Is worth about $1 billion net worth now. Mm-hmm. So he might have lost potentially within a year, but the overall franchise went up, you know? But continue, Flo.
Pretty much, they don't have any salary cap room to even make a trade. In order for Cleveland to make a trade, they're gonna definitely have to get another team involved. Keep in mind, for Cleveland, their second round picks for this year's draft goes to the Knicks for that JR and Iman Shumpert trade. Keep that in mind. So they're running out of draft picks also, and no salary cap space. Only thing that they have right now is the mid-level exemptions. That's it. Nothing else.
Very true. You got to play with the hand that you dealt after a while, you know? That's what the game is. Nobody want to see a stacked team with 4 teams only that can win the championship. That's boring. I don't want to see that, you know? But, you know, that's where we at right now. But thank you very much, fellas. I appreciate that. And I just want to go into real quick about Melo and that potential trade to the Clippers, which was talked about with J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, and Austin Rivers. That was reported by the New York Daily News reporter Frank Isola. Starting with you, Flo, what do you thought about that potential trade they were putting out there right now?
First, great article by Frank Isola, one of the best New York Daily News sports writers in New York City, period. In regards to the players that are involved in this proposed trade rumor, I don't want Jamal Crawford coming back to New York. He did his time here. Let him move on. Austin Rivers, not interested. In regards to J.J. Redick, I don't mind taking an expired contract. But again, the L.A. Clippers is another team that needs to get another team involved to make a trade happen. That's another team with no draft picks. Nothing to offer to the Knicks of substance whatsoever. So again, Mr. Phil Jackson is just trying to run Carmelo Anthony out of town by any means necessary. And he's just trying to get rid of this guy and not even trying to get anything of value or of substance back in return in the Knicks' favor, pretty much.
I hear you. Got to agree with you so far with that, Flo. Thank you. How about you, Danny D? What you think about that potential trade that they spoke about earlier?
I don't know how the Knicks will take that trade when you don't involve either Blake Griffin or DeAndre Jordan. I don't understand how you give up a number one for J.J. Redick, who's inconsistent. Austin Rivers, I don't even know this dude even gets playing time anymore. And Jamal, who comes off the bench. You understand what I'm saying? I'm very confused. And like Flo said, they need another team. They're talking about the Celtics to be the third team. And they might just throw one on Amir Johnson, things like that. I don't understand. They want to rebuild and stuff like that. If I'm the Knicks and I'm Carmelo, think about it. If I'm Carmelo, I might do it because now I still get the pieces, to do what I got to do for the Clippers. But then also, if you go to the Clippers, now you're not going to have Jamal coming off the bench. You're not going to have the bench player and the bench going and Jamal Crawford. You lose less off the bench, and you have to play with these boys out there to try to beat the Warriors.
Very true. Very true.
If that's the case, if they would have threw in a Blake Griffin or a DeAndre Jordan, I'll be more willing. I'll be okay with the trade. But that don't seem like the Clippers are going to give any of those guys up.
Yeah, and then it's a new issue which I saw in the paper. They were talking about you couldn't even trade Blake Griffin to the Knicks because some weird rule talking about you can't have two players on the team that has like max contracts, and there's a stipulation with that because of him and Rose because they was just signed within the same year. It's a weird little stipulation I never even heard of. But I just think it's a horrible move for the Knicks. I'm not giving away Melo, man. I'm not just going to give him away.
Oh my goodness! And not to interrupt, one of the writers, I think it was Frank. He said it'll be. Somebody said I read a writer. He said it'll be Phil should be sued for malpractice if this goes through.
I saw that. Too, man. It's a horrible trade for the Knicks. Cause you got to think about what parameters you need for this deal in Melo. Melo's not so much of a malcontent or so broken down that he's not producing. He just put up 40-something points tonight.
Tonight.
So I'm like, he's putting up numbers. He's playing well, even with all these trade distractions going on. He's still of value. So I'm like, to me, if this is the best you can get, don't do it. Just hold on and just deal with this team the way it is right now. It makes no sense just to give away a player for nothing. If you're going to get a young player like a Brandon Ingram from the Lakers, what they talked about previously, that type of trade, I would understand that. But you're not getting a young player that you actually can build around with Porzingis. You're not getting a high first-round draft pick. And you're not getting even a young player like a Zach LaVine who you actually could put there and say, okay, this is another piece you could put next to this player, and he doesn't cost that much. You could still get another player as a third option to go around those two. So I'm not doing that deal for Melo. I mean, you got to give the fans some reason to still show up and watch the team. I just dislike it totally. Anybody other assessment anybody want to make with that trade? Okay. All right. Thank you, fellas. I appreciate that very much. And that runs us right into our closing remarks for today's show. Starting with you, Flo, what's your closing remarks for today's show?
Pretty much, I want to thank all the listeners. Continue to subscribe and support this show. This is a great show, an A-list show for A-list fans, the best fans in the world, Knicks fans and NBA fans in general. Thank you so much for all the love and support.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Flo. How about you, Danny D? What's your closing remarks?
Man, everybody keep on listening, subscribe. We're showing love. Just keep on showing the love, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you much, Danny D. Much appreciated. And until next time, I'm very appreciative of my co-hosts and the contributions to this podcast, as always. Thanks again to our loyal listeners for tuning into the show. And spread the word, people. We need those reviews. We need those subscriptions. We appreciate that. Keep listening. Keep letting the people know, as I stated earlier. Be well and take it easy. See ya.